The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work. When you go to church. When you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
This is live on the air, okay? I'm going to zoom in on the Earth in Photoshop. You see the Earth? Okay, I'm going to go to Image, Adjust, Levels, and I'm going to bring the levels up. Uh-oh. What is that? Why is there a square box around the Earth?
It is Photoshop, but it's has to be. It is Photoshop, but it's has to be.
It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth? That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind.
So let's use this model of the Earth, and let's enlist the help of a friend, Taxi. You might know her.
Next segment, I'm going to show you how NASA grabs objects in 3D space, rotates them around, manipulates them. They can do this with water, with cloth, anything. And the cool thing about it is we can take what they're doing, what they're seeing with their contact virtual reality augmented lenses, and put that on a separate video layer live. Okay, I have a lot of Tim Peake screw-ups, but this one here, the system glitches, the software does not track his hand properly, and Tim slips his hand underneath his other fingers, which is tightly holding onto the mic, which would be impossible.
You can tell it's real because it looks so fake, honestly. Like, we'd have way better CGI if it was fake.
Just another example of NASA faking space. Let's take a look here at this supposed image of Jupiter. Nothing more than CGI fakery. The supposed auroras. Again, at NASA's official website, where it states Hubble captures vivid auroras in Jupiter's atmosphere. Here's the problem. The date of June 30th, 2016. Now take a look at this. Another so-called official image of Jupiter. This one's from back in 2014. You see the problem here? Now let's take a closer look at the supposed two images provided from NASA of Jupiter. All the clouds are in the same exact position. Here's a side-by-side. I mean, people can't see what's taking place here with NASA. Nothing more than fakery. I mean, give me a break. This is a complete insult. You have a brain in your head.
Look like you're in a studio, maybe in Omaha, Nebraska or something. The shot is so clear. Is this a hoax? Are you really in space still?
See the hair?
I don't know. We're going to have to do something for you.
I want to do it.
I know.
Oh, yeah, I can do that. Watch this. Is this a hoax? Are you really in space still?
Can you do a somersault right now?
Is this a hoax? Are you really in space still?
See the hair? See the hair?
And they just start making stuff up.
Yeah.
Like that Neil Armstrong guy. Have you seen him on the talk shows?
Neil Armstrong, you mean the first man to walk on the moon?
Talk about a fish story.
Yeah.
Man, and they're buying it.
Oh, yeah.
So many times during spacewalks outside the International Space Station, we can see air bubbles rising up. Can you touch on how there are air bubbles in space?
Can you be more specific? Air bubbles?
So yeah, like a lot of times during the footage, the NASA footage, you can see bubbles coming up out of the helmets or kind of from underneath you. How do you explain bubbles in space?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about. You might, now sometimes you get water in the helmet, and it comes, it's either you know, from sweat or from the cooling garments, and you know, that's generally what that is. I've never seen any kind of air bubble anywhere.
Could it be that you're filming in an underwater pool and you're not really out there?
Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad.
You're a coward and a liar and a thief.
In 1986, the shuttle Challenger exploded about 74 seconds after takeoff, killing all 7 astronauts inside. Or did it? It turns out that 6 of the 7 are still alive and kicking today. Ellison Onizuka claims to be his identical twin brother, Claude. Yeah, I've got an identical twin brother, Claude, too. The Challenger pilot, Mickey Smith, hasn't even bothered changing his name. He's now Professor Michael J. Smith of University of Wisconsin. Now, Krista McAuliffe was a bit of a sneaky one. She was the Challenger payload specialist, quite famous for being a teacher. It turns out during her astronaut days she was using her middle name, Krista, and now she goes by her first name, Sharon. The Challenger commander, Francis Richard Scobie, is now Dick Scobie, which sounds like a rather unpleasant disease. Judith Resnick, the Challenger mission specialist, again hasn't even bothered changing her name. She's a professor at Yale Law. And finally, Ronald McNair, another Challenger mission specialist, claims to be his identical twin brother, Carl McNair. What are the odds?
So there I was, just minding my own business, looking at Google Earth, and this big, snow-covered monstrosity is staring me in the face like, why is that covered in snow? So I keep digging a little bit deeper, and I finally get underneath this cloud cover here, and a few images pop up. And I say, oh, images, what are they? Well, this is what you got, which I'm sure that looks familiar to you, right? Looks just like the pictures they give us of Mars. So I'm just kind of creeping around here and definitely noticing the same kind of undulation changes and same kind of rock, same kind of dirt. Only thing that's missing is that nice little red tint that they pay somebody $150,000 a year to put on there. So I'll keep kind of going through here and see if it... What the... Yeah. So, oh, I got another truck. Oh yeah, it says NASA. What's that say? Mars Project? I think I found out where Mars is, guys.
At some point in the future, we're going to look back and say, how did we do it without space?
The kinds of technologies that we're testing out on Space Station are definitely helping us with our goals of going beyond low Earth orbit.
Early in the next decade, a set of crewed flights will test and prove the systems required for exploration beyond low Earth orbit.
Right now, we only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go. And this new system that we're building is going to allow us to go beyond and hopefully take humans into the solar system to explore.
As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
There's a small problem with going to the moon, and inch by inch, NASA is leaking out that they know that there's a problem there. It's called the Van Allen belts, high radiation belts of charged particles around Earth, and we don't know how to get through them, they say. Well, isn't that interesting, because there sure didn't seem to be a problem back in 1969.
The moon landing stopped in 1972 and we haven't been back. We haven't been beyond the Van Allen belts.
NASA admitted that it had lost the original footage of man's first steps on the moon.
YouTube and watch a funny thing happened on the way to the moon.
It contains newly discovered evidence, which is part of the missing tapes, of outtakes from the first mission to the moon, of them falsifying a shot of being halfway to the moon.
For NASA to come out and say that all the tapes were erased, I mean, it's incredible. Geraldo, this isn't just one tape. This is reams of tape labeled Apollo 11 moon landing. Someone had to physically go and erase it. It's very challenging to try to prove we landed on the moon, and it shouldn't be challenging. The tape should be there. There should be plenty of evidence.
I mean, it's proof right there. This is an official NASA photo of the first Apollo 11 lunar module landing on the moon. I mean, it's right there. This is proof, man. It's the picture's right there. It's landing on the moon. But the only problem I have with this picture is that it's taken from the moon. People who believe they saw the landing on the moon because they heard it on the radio.
There's a picture of the INSAT actually being deployed from the spacecraft.
Did you see it in the background? There was a guy in the background, man. I'm not kidding you. You can't deny that that's someone in the background. There's a guy moving in the background.
And I'll tell you, just if nothing else, here's why you can tell they're not fake. Just to create the paperwork, that amount of paperwork would make faking it prohibitively expensive. No one could afford to generate that much documentation.
All of that happened in a little town called York, Maine, across the United States from where we're talking to you right now. Across the United States from where we're talking to you right now.
My research of the last year has led me to the conclusion that not even low Earth orbit is possible, that the International Space Station is a hoax, and all manned space travel is fake. First though, let's have a look at the International Space Station. I want to talk about some of the anomalies I see there. For the inside of the International Space Station, there are a couple of zero-gravity tricks that they use to fake it. The first is they have a complete mock-up of the International Space Station built on the inside of an airplane. And that airplane does a bunch of rises and falls. It does an upside-down parabolic trajectory, and that simulates zero gravity. The other main way they simulate the zero gravity is with suspension in front of a blue screen. And they use that trick for extended periods of time, for longer than 45-second segments. But they can't move around as much. They can't do the acrobatic flips and rolls in the extended mode. So there's full motion mode where they can fully move around, and that's faked in a plane. And then there's suspended or extended mode where they're suspended by wires in front of a blue screen. They don't move around as much, but they can make the scene last for a longer period of time. The extended mode is much quieter than the full motion mode. In full motion mode, you can actually hear the sound of the jet engines, the engines of the airplane. In every single scene of full motion mode, in every segment of the International Space Station, you can hear this loud sound, the sound of jet engines. You could argue that it's the air conditioning system. Not even an office air conditioner is that loud. And why is there a loud sound in every segment of the International Space Station?
this will be all right.
Mr. Armstrong, Bart Sibrel, ABC Digital. Wanted to give you the opportunity to swear on the Bible that you walked on the moon. Will you put your left hand on the Bible and swear to God that you walked on the moon? You have $5,000 cash. You can give it to charity if you swear on the Bible that you walked on the moon.
Please
I have the tape.
It'd be fine.
Why don't you swear to... Why not? Why won't you do it?
The Earth supposedly 23.4 degrees on its axis. And that leaves you, of course, the occultic number, again, 66.6 degrees off. Well, Earth is supposedly orbiting around the Sun at 66,600 miles an hour.
Mr. Rabbit! Wait! No, I'm overdue. I'm really in a stew. No time to say goodbye. Hello, I'm late.
My, what a peculiar place to have a party. You know, Dinah, we really shouldn't be doing this. After all, we haven't been invited, and curiosity often leads to trouble. Goodbye, Dinah. Goodbye. Goodness, what if I should fall right through the center of Earth? And come out the other side where people walk upside down. Oh, but that's silly. Nobody... Oh! Oh, Mr. Rabbit! Wait!
What if I should fall right through the center of Earth? Oh. And come out the other side where people walk upside down. Oh, but that's silly.
Oh, but that's silly. Oh, but that's silly.
What does that mean?
It means buckle your seatbelt, Dorothy, because Kansas is going bye-bye.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. You have the look of a man who accepts what he sees because he is expecting to wake up. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth? That you are a slave. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Felt like heaven. Remember a time before 9/11. It started there. For me, that was the big when and where. I woke up. Reality hit me. I stood there just getting choked up. After the towers, we searched everything. I sat there for hours. JFK was first. Seems to me that the whole Kennedy family was cursed. False flag attacks. Out to get the sheep and fighting at their backs. Vietnam was popular. A false flag event that was discovered years after the war was done. They go so low. Let's see how deep the rabbit hole goes.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Chemicals in the sky, spraying the people, giving us new ways to die. Poisoning gas supplies, you can only see this with awakened eyes. Sheep feel defeat, unaware they are beaten down by the elite, looking like slaves. But what's it about it? Don't make waves, just blinding. Ascending with the earth flat. Imagine wide open before you even look into that. It makes sense. Gravity is getting beat down because it's
presidents are puppets, while the true rulers rule from behind the scenes. The real rulers are those who control our monetary system and the mainstream media. A tiny handful of people, made up mostly of Freemasons, run and control the vast majority of the world's banks and media. As damning and easily provable as is this fact of Freemason control, there is one other incredible fact, which has also been held from humanity for 500 years now. This fact is even more damning and more easily provable, and is also a direct result of the Freemason control over the minds of the masses worldwide. It is the most ridiculed, censored, and hidden fact in history. If this fact was made known to the world at large, just this one fact has the power to completely transform the world and everyone in it for the better, holistically, in a myriad of ways. Our rulers are well aware of this, and that is exactly why this truth has been held from us so expertly for so long. It is about the truth of who we are, where we come from, the actual position and significance of humans, Earth, the sun, moon, and stars. The fact is, the Earth is flat and motionless.
And that is the revelation that will finally break the Matrix. You have been taught from the earliest ages that you live on a spinning ball, that NASA has sent men to the moon, and you are the result of a Big Bang explosion which created everything out of nothing. Yet nothing could be farther from the truth.
The pictures and videos presented to the public by NASA and other government space agencies are as real as a Hollywood motion picture and as scientific as science fiction. Science facts, on the other hand, prove the flat Earth. There are hundreds of proofs and scientific experiments which have conclusively shown the Earth to be a stationary plane. But you have never and will never hear about these heavily censored experiments in our controlled media. Measurements have been repeatedly taken throughout history until modern times to test the Earth's supposed curvature. And every time have proven what our eyes and experience tell us to be true. The Earth simply does not curve downwards. This mythical curvature exists only in the fisheye lens footage they constantly film, and the fake CG images of Earth they constantly propagate. The spinning globe and every argument used to defend it is simply pseudoscience masquerading as truth.
Millions of people worldwide are waking up to this incredible rediscovery. I encourage you to please explore this fascinating subject for yourself.
Strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. That's never been seen by a human being. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
Flat Earth has long been touted as the mother of all conspiracy theories, suppressed and ridiculed for centuries as being an ignorant, unscientific worldview. But the facts of the matter are far from what you've been told. It is a fact, not a theory, that bodies of water always seek and find their own level. From a pond, lake, or an ocean, the natural physics of water is to find and remain level.
It is a fact that the majority of Earth is covered in such level water, thus making it an unscientific theory to postulate that Earth is actually a gigantic sphere with bendy oceans curving all the way around it. It is an unproven, unscientific theory with no observable, measurable, or repeatable evidence to claim that bodies of water can somehow bend, cling to the exterior of shapes, and show convexity upon their surface. It is a fact, not a theory, that we are able to observe objects at incredibly long distances, far beyond what would be possible if Earth were a globe 25,000 miles in circumference, as we're told. For example, it is a fact that in Genoa, Italy, from just above sea level, it is possible to see the distant islands of Elba, Caprea, and Corsica 80 to 125 miles away. It is a necessary theory that the globe Earth must curve 8 inches per mile squared if it really be a ball 25,000 miles in circumference, as we're told. But based on such a theory, these islands would all be completely hidden behind thousands of feet of curved Earth. It is a fact, not a theory, that the horizon always appears perfectly flat, 360 degrees around the observer, regardless of altitude. All amateur balloon, rocket, plane, and drone footage show a completely flat horizon as high as we can reach, over 20 miles or 120,000 feet up. It is an observable, testable, repeatable, scientific fact of reality that Polaris, the North Pole star, situated perfectly over the North Pole center of Earth, never moves a single inch. Night after night, year after year, century after century, with all the other fixed stars remaining fixed in their relative constellations, revolving perfect circles around Polaris. It is also an unobservable, unscientific theory to claim that the Earth is spinning 1,000 miles per hour, and the Milky Way shoots millions of miles per hour more off through infinite space, when we cannot see, hear, feel, or otherwise observe or prove any such motion. And we can see clearly for ourselves Polaris never moving, and all the other stars revolving around it. This is just a brief introduction to the many observable, testable, repeatable scientific facts of our level, motionless plain Earth that have been suppressed and ridiculed for centuries in favor of various unobservable, untestable, unscientific theories purporting we live on a tilting, wobbling, spinning, ball-shaped Earth. To learn much more about this most important and highly censored topic, please follow the links in the description box.
The one thing globe believers need to understand is that you don't just take the spinning ball Earth and flatten it out and put it back in the heliocentric model. Like it's just the only misfit planet and it's flat and the rest of the planets are round. No flat earther has ever said that. No flat earther will ever say that because it's not what we believe. The Earth isn't a pancake floating in outer space, and you will never hear a flat earther say that. And if you would ever actually take the time to study it for yourself or hear a flat earther through, then you would find that it's much different and things would actually make more sense.
They've got the narrative control to where anyone that goes to search for this, they're going to see pancakes floating up in space, you know, and it turns people away. Or they see a snow globe. A snow globe out in the middle of space with water falling off the sides, and they're like, what is this? It turns them away. The mainstream agenda was to push their false narrative, all these hit pieces on flat Earth. 2016, 2017, that was pretty much the end of the YouTube era, where we could actually find real evidence, real, content. Any search engine, the algorithms are suited to their favor. You're going to see all the hit pieces. You're going to see all the stuff that's there to debunk flat Earth. So it's just, it's almost impossible to get the real information.
1,000 videos on YouTube with titles that are, and I quote, a mixture of shocking, vile, and promotional themes that include rape game jokes, shock reality, social experiments, celebrity pedophilia, false flag rants, and terror-related conspiracy theories dating back to the Oklahoma City attacks in 1995. Ms. Downs, does Google think that this is a problem, and what is the solution that you're coming up with to address it?
In terms of conspiracy theory content generally, our goal is to promote authoritative content to our users. So we have two principles that guide the way here. That's the first one, is we want to provide users with authoritative, trustworthy information.
I'm sorry to cut you off. I only have a minute and a half, and I don't really need to hear what you're trying to provide. I want to know how you're dealing with all these conspiracy theorists on your platform.
So the first way is by demoting low-quality content and promoting more authoritative content, and the second is by providing more transparency for users. So we're introducing boxes that provide factual information at the top of results that have shown themselves to turn up a lot of information that is counterfactual, such as searching for the Earth is flat on YouTube, where you see a lot of...
Your response is to put a box saying, nope, the Earth is not flat.
It's a sphere. So people have known that the Earth is spherical for thousands of years. It's not okay to say that the Earth is flat. This is some sort of strange denial. I don't know where it comes from. And it's something where I keep getting this question. We really need to put this question to bed because we've known the Earth is a sphere for a long time.
Now, one thing I really want your generation to embrace is that the Earth is a closed system. We cannot leave the Earth. There's no place to go.
All the ancient cultures from the beginning of time have depicted a flat, kind of enclosed Earth. So we have this flat Earth cosmology all the way up into the 1900s when a big push was made to live on this round spinning ball flying around the sun. They are basically placing us on a speck of dust flying through infinite space where it was made from this accidental Big Bang. And we really don't mean very much, and everything is kind of an accident, and it kind of leads you into this mentality where things are meaningless. It doesn't matter what you do in life, but the more you research, the more you'll find that you can't prove the spinning ball Earth unless you're suffering from cognitive dissonance and you've been programmed your entire life. All scientific experiments show that we're being lied to about what mainstream science is saying about the Earth.
If the Earth were a globe with a curvature drop roughly equal to 8 inches per mile squared, and the surface of the Earth and its atmosphere allegedly rotated at approximately 1,000 miles per hour at the equator, as claimed by the globe model, you'd assume those claims would be vital to NASA and the military for modeling and building aircraft. Instead, you'll see through declassified documents that government agencies and their contractors repeatedly assumed a flat and stationary Earth. For example, this NASA document assumes a flat, non-rotating Earth. Georgia Institute of Technology, on behalf of NASA, the model used is a flat, non-rotating Earth. Technical memo from the NASA Langley Research Center, flat, non-rotating Earth. NASA Technical Memorandum, flat, non-rotating Earth. NASA publication on the derivation and definition of a linear aircraft model, flat, non-rotating Earth, and flat, non-rotating Earth. NASA contractor, flat, non-rotating Earth, and flat Earth assumptions. NASA Ames Research Center, non-rotating flat Earth. Army Research Laboratory, flat Earth. Army Research Laboratory, propagation of electromagnetic fields over a flat Earth. Army Research Laboratory, a flat Earth approximation provides the best estimate. NASA Technical Paper, stationary atmosphere over a flat, non-rotating Earth. NASA Technical Memo, a non-rotating Earth. MIT Department of Aeronautics and Astronautics, flat Earth, flat Earth. NASA Memo, flat, non-rotating Earth. NASA Contractor Report, assumption based on the Earth is flat and non-rotating. NASA Technical Memo, flat, non-rotating Earth. NASA Technical Paper, stationary atmosphere and flat, non-rotating Earth assumptions. NASA Technical Note, flat, non-rotating Earth. NASA Langley Research Center, flat, non-rotating Earth. Army Research Laboratory, these equations assume a flat Earth. Even the Soviets made their assumptions based on a flat Earth. If the Earth were a ball and rotated at 1,000 miles per hour, we obviously would not see the repeated engineering assumptions that the Earth is flat and stationary.
None of the engineering of bridges and train tracks,
buildings, all kinds of infrastructure that goes for miles and hundreds and maybe thousands of miles. None of it accounts for, in its actual engineering blueprints, for the curvature of the Earth. I mean, if I was building a giant bridge of hundreds of miles, wouldn't I have to account for the curve? Or is it possible there's not a curve, and that we've been lied to for a reason?
If the Earth is 25,000 miles in circumference, there must exist a curvature drop of 8 inches times the mile when you square the mile. 1 mile means there should be an 8-inch curvature drop. 2 miles, 2 times 2 times 8 is 32. That's 32-inch drop. 3 miles would be a 72-inch drop. And this would exponentially continue. Here's the longest bridge in the world. The Danyang Kongchong Grand Bridge in China. 102.4 miles long. There should exist nearly 7,000 feet of curvature drop in that bridge. 7,000 foot curvature drop. Do you see it? It ain't there. Look at the horizon. It's flat.
The horizon is always perfectly horizontal, 360 degrees around the observer, regardless of altitude. If Earth was actually a globe, no matter how large, as an observer ascended, the horizon would remain fixed in position and fall below the observer the higher climbed. In reality, all amateur balloon, rocket, plane, and drone footage filmed without a fisheye lens at maximum altitudes of over 20 miles high show a completely flat horizon, still rising to eye level. Only in NASA and other space agency footage does the horizon ever curve or appear below the observer's eye level.
Want to say that, well, if the Earth is flat, my eyesight should be infinite. Well, your eyesight's not infinite, regardless of how good a telescope you fasten to it. The atmosphere is not transparent. You can imagine the haze over a road on hot, humid days. The same thing happens. All telescopes are going to blur out long before you can see, hundreds or thousands of miles like that. You can, however, see much farther than would be possible on a ball of 25,000 miles in circumference.
So that's not a disproof of the flat Earth that you can't see, thousands and thousands of miles. But you can, however, see hundreds of miles sometimes, like you said. And if you can, there's reports of being able to see almost 200 miles. At that distance, there should be like 4 miles of curvature. So people have seen things that you absolutely should not be able to see on a ball 25,000 miles in circumference.
Curvature of the Earth horizon model of science! Watch. As ships sail away, they don't disappear all at once. No, first, the bottom will disappear. See, the bottom of the ship is gone. Now we can see midway up, and then the whole thing disappears. Now, ships came back. They didn't fall off a table. So people realized that the world is curved. I mean, it's a big curve, but it's curved. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. The world is round.
Watch a boat disappearing over the horizon. As you said, the hull is going to disappear before the masthead, and people have been saying for centuries that that's because it's going over the curvature of the ball Earth. But if that was the case, then after it disappeared from sight from going over the curvature of the ball Earth, you would not be able to bring it back into sight by using, say, a zoom camera, a binoculars, or a telescope. But in fact, you can let the boat completely disappear and then train a telescope on it, and you will bring the entirety of the boat, including the hull, back into view, proving that it did not descend over a wall of convex water, and in fact the horizon is the vanishing line of perspective from your point of view. And that's why you can zoom in on it, or if you rise in altitude you can see more, or on a clearer day you can see more, see further. The horizon is not the curvature of the ball Earth as we've been told. It is simply the vanishing line of perspective.
Boats don't disappear over the curvature of the horizon. Boats disappear due to perspective. All you have to do is go to the beach, watch a boat disappear from your eye, and then whip out your telescope, your binoculars, or your high-powered zoom on your camera, and you can pull the entire boat right back into view. Whole mass and all. Yeah, that's right. You think the boat disappeared? Just whip out your telescope, your binoculars, or your zoom camera. You bring the entire boat back into view, completely debunking everything Coy just told you. And here's my video proof. Imagine that. You can debunk the curvature of the Earth yourself with just a simple zoom on your camera. Bye-bye, little boat.
The flat Earth? Well, that didn't stand up to test. The round Earth did.
Let me guess. You saw the curvature in the images from satellites. The thousands of magical orbiting aluminum tin cans floating in space. It's all animation and games until one comes crashing down on your squad. Many crashed satellites have been reported the world over. And the one thing they all have in common is giant helium balloons attached to them. Of course, satellite technology is real. We get our weather information, communication equipment, and even some internet service from them. Look up Google Loon, for example. It's not that they wouldn't use the magical floating satellites if they could, it's that they don't physically exist, nor does the globe. They have been sending these up one at a time since it all began. I will allow them to explain it.
He got a patent on that in 1950, and those early balloons were so large they didn't have any way to launch them, except they actually launched them from aircraft carriers.
Modern scientific ballooning was born. It was also the genesis for NASA's newly developed super pressure balloon.
The reason for super pressure ballooning is they have absolutely stable altitude day, night, and it doesn't matter how cold the atmosphere is. They are sealed.
So your shape is always the same, you always displace the same amount of air, and therefore you have the same amount of buoyancy all the time.
This day-to-night altitude stability allows super pressure balloons and the sun.
Hi, I'm Matt, and this is NASA Now.
NASA's been using balloons for science research for over 30 years. The exploration that can be done on balloons is continuing to grow. The standard balloon that I fly is about 660 feet long when it's made. So when it's inflated, it's over 400 feet tall by 440 feet wide. Think of a dome stadium. That's how big my balloons are.
So let me get this straight. It is now public knowledge that they send up satellites on massive helium-filled balloons. As you should know, NASA is the largest consumer of helium in the world, for obvious reasons. But the issue with society is that they never critically think. Just think for a second here. If these are sent up to provide the world with all of the important information we need, and I'm sure the entire process is expensive and difficult to accomplish, then please explain to me what in the flat world do these pathetic animations do for you? Do they make you happy inside? Are they so super duper cool that you cannot see past the obvious CGI? The fact of the matter is everything NASA sends up on a balloon simply hovers above our motionless Earth. That is why they rarely speak about orbiting satellites, and of course, they never show footage. Here is some footage of a random evening with a man, the moon, and his Nikon P900. Notice anything floating up there?
Forget it, Bart. It's so bright out you can't see anything in the sky except the Fox satellite.
Look at pictures from space, where you see the Earth as a sphere. Those pictures are not fake. The Earth isn't quite a sphere. It's a little its spin is a little stretched it, made it slightly oblate. The Earth is a sphere, but the Earth isn't quite a sphere. That just makes no fucking sense. I mean, it's just bullshit. Bullshit. Bullshit.
So Earth, throughout its life, even when it formed, it was spinning, and it got a little wider at the equator than it does at the poles. So it's not actually a sphere, it's oblate, and officially it's an oblate spheroid. That's what we call it. But not only that, it's slightly wider below the equator than above the equator.
A little chubbier.
A little chubbier.
Yeah.
Chubby's a good way. It's like pear-shaped.
Yeah.
So it turns out the pear-shapedness is bigger than the height of Mount Everest above sea level.
Take a look at these images coming from NASA and RASA and JAXA and all these different space agencies, the Chinese, the Japanese. Some of these are even worse than NASA, and you'll notice how clearly fake they are, how obviously Photoshop CGI they are. And when you compare them to one another, you'll notice these impossibilities, like the water always being different shades of blue every single picture. The size of continents changing from picture to picture, one time North America filling up the entire picture, one time it being just a tiny little speck in the upper part. You'll have on the animations, you'll notice that the clouds almost never move. You'll see a spinning ball Earth with the exact same cloud formations for 24 hours.
In 2002, Blue Marble 2.0, NASA's Rob Simon made this, and it had wide appeal too. For example, it ended up as the default background on the iPhone.
I didn't even know until I bought an iPhone and turned it on and kind of did a little happy dance.
Simon's job is...
It's primarily taking data and making pictures out of it.
That's what this is, a composite of data sets from several different instruments translated into a picture.
To us, the really cool thing was the data set. Up until that point, there was no realistic color map of the globe anywhere.
So the land layer here comes from
the Moderate Resolution Imaging Spectroradiometer aboard Terra.
And the tricky part here was the weather.
So we actually had to take clouds out.
They stashed the clouds for later, went onto the ocean. That came from an instrument that measures phytoplankton in the sea.
Where it was low, I colored it dark blue because they're low mostly in mid-oceans. And then where it's a little bit higher, it was like a little bit brighter green.
Then add the clouds back in.
There's a small problem with it because there's a very slight gap in between each orbit.
So some of those are painted on.
It is photoshopped, but it's has to be. It is photoshopped, but it's has to be.
Then
there was another layer to sort of simulate the atmosphere.
And then there's this little bright spot.
It's called the specular highlight. So it's the reflection of sunlight off of water.
Those are the pieces, but you can't just slap them all together.
It just didn't look realistic. It looks kind of flat, or the clouds are sort of too see-through. So I just hit Command Z a lot.
There's artistry to creating the world.
What I imagine it to be. Unfortunately, I'm not an astronaut. I've never been to space. It is photoshopped, but it's has to be.
Images that inspire, educate, and sometimes just make us say, wow. Yeah. Over the years, NASA has given us spectacular photos and renderings that reveal a colorful and mysterious universe.
No doubt. And now Chris Martinez is introducing us to two of the artists behind some of the most iconic space art in the galaxy.
In a small, bright office, working side by side.
Let's see.
Robert Hurt and Tim Pyle bring the universe to life.
What we're doing does have real science underlying it.
Robert is an astrophysicist turned artist. Tim, once a Hollywood animator, is now a planet illustrator. Together, they produce some of NASA's most popular images, from renderings of how planets light years away could look, to actual photos of stars and galaxies captured by NASA's powerful telescopes.
And this is sort of how it comes to me. And then
Many of those images have a dark, grainy start, but color and light reveal an astonishing glimpse of how the deepest regions of space might appear to the human eye.
What I'm trying to do is show people sort of the broader colors that the universe has to offer.
It's a delicate blend of imagination and data. The artists meet with NASA scientists over many drafts to ensure a planet or galaxy's look lines up with the research to make each one as accurate as possible.
I love the challenge. It's kind of like a puzzle to me of trying to create something that looks really cool within the restrictions that were given by the scientists.
Heart nebulas, celestial collisions, a bird's eye view of the Milky Way, astronomers are charting the outer reaches of the cosmos and bringing back jaw-dropping images from telescopes like Hubble and its infrared cousin Spitzer. If you look down at the bottom of that Milky Way image, you'll see these two words: artist concept. This sweeping image of the Orion Nebula actually looks like this. And the TRAPPIST-1 star system, the latest discovery of 7 potentially habitable exoplanets that made national headlines, it's really only a box of gray and white pixels. You see, space art is part of NASA's most fascinating images.
The flat Earth research, does that then preclude the existence of other spheroid celestial bodies? Does that mean that all planets are flat, or are we the only sort of plate?
Right. Well, we're a plane, not a planet. So all they did was add a T to the end and everybody bought it. But in reality, Earth is the only physical plane, and everything above us is just a light. So there is no spherical terra firma ball planets like Mars, Jupiter, and all these things that NASA presents us with. You know, the moon landing was fake, and it's done here on Earth. The Mars footage is fake, and then done here on Earth. All the CGI images you've ever seen of all these planets, you'll notice that there is no actual footage. Type in real planet footage or something along those lines in YouTube, and you'll not find a single real video of a planet. And when you look at planets through amateur telescopes, they just look like flat, circular disks of light, just like stars. And in fact, for thousands of years, they were called stars. They're called the wandering stars, as they differ from the fixed stars in their relative motions only. The fixed stars stay completely fixed together in their constellations day after day, year after year, millennia after millennia, which is another proof that we're not on a spinning ball going all around the galaxy like they tell us, because Polaris, the North Pole star, stays exactly where it is, right above us, and all the other stars rotate in a dome-like planetarium shape eastward in a 24-hour cycle all around us. And the wandering stars, so-called, because they kind of wander their own unique paths, they're still in a general motion. They do a kind of a spirograph pattern around the sun. So, no, the sun, the moon, the stars, and the wandering stars that are now called planets are just lights. And they light up the night sky. They give us calendrical time. They divide not only the night from the day, but the years and the months, etc. The word month comes from moon month, and it's the cycle is the same, the female cycle as well. So there's a lot of parallels between, as above, so below. That's where astrology comes from as well. When you propagate the spinning ball Earth model, then suddenly astrology, which was an ancient science of consciousness known to our ancestors, suddenly becomes like some stupid superstition, because how could the position of the stars over us have any significance? But if we are the only plane in existence, and everything in the heavens truly does revolve around us, then that denotes a special importance to not only Earth, but to humans, the most intelligent of the intelligent designers' designs. If we're just, on the speck of God's fingernail in the corner of the universe, like NASA wants us to believe, then it's a very nihilistic, atheistic kind of view.
are no spheres in the heavens. The experts have devised them in the imagination so it was easier to understand their movements. So what's that mean? Well, it means stars are not distant. Guilty of a cover-up the likes of which has never been seen in human history. Everything, and I mean everything that we were taught about space, about the planets, about the orbits is a hoax. It's a lie. That means our entire idea of the cosmos isn't just wrong, it's very wrong, astronomically wrong.
If the Earth is flat, then why are all the planets and the sun and the moon a sphere? And as you can see here, how they make the silly little meme showing a flat Earth with everything else round. Well, it's really, really simple. You believe that everything in the sky is a sphere because that's what you've been told on TV. And when you look at it through a telescope, it does look like a sphere, but you can't reach up there and touch it. You don't know if it's a sphere or not. You're assuming that something thousands of miles away is a sphere, because this is what they showed you right here. This is what they show you. When you look up the planets and the Earth, look at them. They're all the same size. But anyways, here's my point. Here's the cartoon images they give you. You think in your mind that they're all a sphere because that's what they show you. Now these look like 4 planets out in outer space, right? According to what you've been shown on TV. They all look like 4 spheres out in outer space, right? But it's just an optical illusion. So here's my answer to all you globers who say, well, if the Earth is flat, why is everything else in the sky a sphere? Well, how do you know it's a sphere? Let's see if it's a sphere. Well, that's not a sphere. But from 3 inches away on your phone or whatever you're watching this through, it looked like a sphere at first, didn't it? Now let's check out the next one. Is it a sphere? Let's look and see. Imagine that. A flat disc. And you think that just because you can see something that's thousands of miles away, that it's a sphere, when you can't even determine which one of these 4 objects is a sphere 3 inches in front of your eyes, and you think you can tell the difference from thousands of miles away? It's time to wake up. It's an optical illusion. You've been lied to, people. Wake up.
Take a gas, vacuum of equal volume, and we're going to remove the barrier. You know what's going to happen spontaneously, right? The gas is going to fill the available volume.
Is the expansion of a gas into a vacuum. I have in one of these bulbs some bromine, and in the other I have a vacuum. And if I open the tap between these two, you will see spontaneously the bromine rush from one to the other. Now that is the simplest change we can have, perhaps, because all that happens is a change in entropy. In this case, the expansion into a vacuum, nothing else is involved. There's no energy change, there's no temperature change, there's no change except entropy.
When you suggest that you have space, therefore the second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply, it's a begging the question fallacy. So often I will ask fundamentalist religious zealots, beyond your fundamentalist religious zealot belief that the sky is a vacuum, how can you have gas pressure without a container? Because the natural instinct of a fundamentalist globe-believing fundy, it's a bit redundant, is to beg the question of the sky vacuum and then tell us that obviously the second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply because the gas isn't filling my presupposition that the sky is a vacuum. Well, that's a begging the question fallacy, to assume that you've got a sky vacuum and therefore not require a justification for its violation of that particular law. That would be an entropy increase, or standard gas law. The volume that you would calculate it with would be the volume of space the gas has to fill. And if the sky was a vacuum, that would be an availability of volume for the gas we breathe to fill. And fill it must. That's what gas does. It expands in all directions. So the gas we're breathing, which is at pressure, would fill the sky vacuum. Now their response is often to say, well, we have a gas pressure gradient, which is merely a delta of the original question and assertion when you've got a sky vacuum belief. How can you have gas pressure in the first instance without a container? And they would say, well, a delta of gas pressure gradient is something we experience. It's like, well, how did you achieve the gas pressure in the first place without containment? And the answer is you can't. It stands directly in violation of several natural laws. Without the container, there can be no pressure. Therefore, if the sky was a vacuum, as asserted in the heliocentric rhetoric, then the gas we breathe would fill the space. outer space, claimed to be a vacuum, is fake. Therefore, any claims from that claimed to be sky vacuum are automatically fake, including but not limited to pictures of Earth from space. The region is fake, second law of thermodynamics violation. Therefore, the pictures claimed to have come from the fake region are also fake. Orbits in a sky vacuum, which is also a begging the question fallacy, which I won't detail now, is claimed to take place in a fake place called space, therefore automatically fake. Same goes for satellites, all debunked by the second law of thermodynamics.
There is a firmament or dome encasing our flat plane. The firmament is described in the Bible's creation narrative. Then God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." In Egyptian mythology, Nut is the goddess of the sky. She is seen star-covered, arching over the earth, representing its dome. In Greek mythology, Uranus was the primeval god of the sky. The Greeks imagined the sky as a solid dome of brass, whose edges descended to rest upon the outermost limits of the flat earth. Uranus was the literal sky, and Gaia the earth. In the Roman era, he was often depicted as Aeon, god of eternal time, in the form of a man holding the zodiac wheel, standing above Gaia. The Hebrews believed the sky was a solid dome. They called this solid vault of heaven the Rakia, with the sun, moon, and stars beneath. In Indian mythology, the dome is called Brahmanda. This is the structure of the world according to Finnish mythology, showing a dome with the stars projected onto it. In the Aboriginal conception of the world, the earth was circular and flat, covered by the dome of the sky, which stretched out to the horizon. Ancient peoples knew about this dome and wove it into their worldview. The elite would have us believe that these are just made-up cosmologies, invented by peoples who were too scientifically ignorant to understand reality. But there is no coincidence that the same description of a flat earth and dome is so common. These cultures around the world had special knowledge about the nature of this place we are living in.
Show you the Encyclopedia Britannicas in the public libraries before 1958. Here's volume 2 out of the alphabet A. And we're going to flip to the Antarctica, which, and this is from 1958, as you can see, Encyclopedia Britannica from 1958, before the Antarctic Treaty says is there. Now, you won't find this in the new encyclopedias because the government's banned them. But what I want you to notice right here is, notice how it says, the flights proved inland areas to be featureless in character with a dome 13,000 feet high at about latitude 80 degrees south, longitude 90 degrees east. Take a really close look at that. Now I'm going to zoom it in for you. When they returned to New Zealand, these flights proved the inland areas to be featureless in character with a dome 13,000 feet high at about latitude 80 degrees south, longitude 90 degrees east. Now, if this doesn't make sense to you, let me show you with an image of what a flat earth map would look like. Now, this is what a latitude 80 degrees south would look like on a flat earth map. As you can see, the dome comes down closer to you over the wall, which will be about 13,000 feet. Now, if you go back out into the center of the earth, or up the North Pole, and try to go up to the firmament with a little bit of calculation, it's going to show that it's about 385,500 feet away. It's really simple, folks. Now, if you're not familiar with any of this at all, and you're just now new to all this, you can say, well, this guy is crazy, he doesn't know what he's talking about. But what you got to ask yourself is, why do all the maps before 1958 show a flat earth with the ice wall around it and a firmament, a dome. And why does the encyclopedia tell you that there's a dome there and it gives you the exact height at a certain latitude and longitude? Well, the reason is because in 1958, that's when all governments and all nations of the world signed the UN treaty to ban all civilians from going to the Antarctica, and NASA came in and erased everything just like they're erasing everything today.
Operation Fishbowl here was a series of high-altitude nuclear tests in 1962 that were carried out by the United States as part of the larger Operation Dominic nuclear test program. Then all of a sudden the United States and Russia engaged in these high-altitude nuclear tests. And the United States calls theirs Operation Dominic, within which we have Operation Fishbowl. Now, hold that thought. This is all happening. If you go and look on the Operation Dominic entry, you see the different dates. We're 1962. This is the early part of 1962. We're talking May. I mean, look at all these bombs going off. 25 April, 1962, 27 April, 2 May, 4 May, 6 May, 8 May, 9 May, 11 May, 11 May, 12 May, 14 May, 19, etc., etc., etc. Maybe they found a dome and they started to question all that. So the first thing they do is send out probes to go, wait a minute, what in the world? If we're in a dome, how high does this thing go? So they start launching high-altitude nuclear bombs. And if you look at the videos on Operation Fishbowl and Starfish Prime and all those high-altitude tests, it looks like they're hitting something up there. Dominic, D-O-M-I-N-I-C. Look up Dominic, D-O-M-I-N-I-C. From the late Latin name Dominicus, meaning of the Lord. Fishbowl is part of Operation Dominic. It looks like they are sending high-altitude nuclear bombs to test the fishbowl of the Lord, i.e. the firmament.
Steroid Santa Claus kicks and deals. It's a long fly ball going back, and the ball shatters the sky, bringing the ocean itself down into the stadium. Oh, Simpson just broke this dream's reality wide open.
It may be hard to see tonight, but we are all standing under a glass ceiling right now. Although we weren't able to shatter that highest, hardest glass ceiling this time, thanks to you. It's got about 18 million cracks in it. I know we have still not shattered that highest and hardest glass ceiling, but someday someone will, and hopefully sooner than we might think right now.
What is gravity?
You have no idea. Okay, next question.
Wow.
No, here's the difference. We can describe gravity. We can say what it does to other things. We can measure it, predict with it. But when you start asking, like, what it is, I don't know.
Long before the theory of gravity was a glimmer in Newton's imagination, the natural physics of density and buoyancy already perfectly explained why apples fall down. Quite simply, objects fall or rise based on their relative density to the medium surrounding them. Apples fall because they are denser than the air, while helium balloons rise because they are lighter. No gravity necessary. Everything seeks its relative density and rises or falls until settling accordingly. Now, this has absolutely nothing to do with gravity. Gravity is a hypothetical magnetic-like force to help explain the heliocentric theory of the universe. To claim the existence of a physical law without a single practical evidential example is hearsay, not science. How is it that gravity is so strong that it can hold all the oceans and people stuck to the underside of the ball Earth?
Have you ever seen a time lapse of the sun? Does it look like the Earth is rotating backwards and the sun is still? Or does it look like our sun is simply moving across our sky, traveling away from your perspective? Again, but with some inversion. You can clearly see the sun, not only decreasing its size, but heading towards its next destination with a slight turn before it disappears from your line of sight. What we see is a local sun that is taking its local light with it. What happened to the horizon glowing across half of the world? Most sunsets are already fading through pollution, dander, chemtrails, and fog. Plus, refraction will always make the sun seem like it's going down, as well as your perspective.
It would appear to sink down in your field of view. That's perspective. The further away you get from it, the lower it will appear. It doesn't physically change its height, it just appears that way to your eyes, until eventually it will disappear behind the horizon formed by your eye's vanishing point. Your eye has an angular resolution of 0.2 degrees, and anything at that height will disappear beyond the limit of your sight. Many times we can see time-lapse footage of the sun that shows it getting smaller as it moves away from us. Now, that's not always the case, since the sun is travelling around the North Pole. The closer you are to the north, the less you'll see the size change. But from locations beyond the equator, you'll absolutely see the sun's size change. And that could never ever happen if the sun was 93 million miles away. You wouldn't see the sun change at all.
Our eyes cannot see farther than what they were designed to see. But that is no reason to keep them closed.
There's also an effect that occurs under certain conditions called atmospheric lensing, where the sheer amount of atmosphere, as well as the rain between you and the sun, acts like a lens and a prism, magnifying it greatly, which leads to another observational proof that the sun setting is an optical effect. At such times, when the sun is setting over the sea, and it seems as though it's half hidden by the horizon, then you can zoom in with a high-powered zoom camera and see that it's actually still above the horizon. It's just an optical illusion. In 240 BC, a Jesuit named Eratosthenes, he calculated the Earth's circumference. He did that by planting a stick in the ground at midday so that the sunlight, being directly overhead, would cast no shadow. Simultaneously, about 400 miles away, somebody else planted the stick in the same way and found that the sunlight cast a shadow. So by taking a shadow length and knowing the distance between the sticks, you could theoretically work out the circumference of the Earth. This method requires that the sun be a long, long way away so that the light coming from the sun is all parallel. However, it turns out that you'd get exactly the same results on a flat Earth if the sun were only 3,100 miles away and 34 miles across.
Amateur balloon footage taken above the clouds has provided stunning visual proof that the sun cannot be millions of miles away. In several shots, you can see a clear hotspot reflecting on the clouds directly below the sun's spotlight-like influence. If the sun were actually millions of miles away, such a small localized hotspot could not occur. Another proof the sun is not millions of miles away is found by tracing the angle of sun rays back to their source above the clouds. There are thousands of pictures showing how sunlight comes down through cloud cover at a variance of converging angles. The area of convergence is, of course, the sun, and is not millions of miles away, but rather relatively close to Earth, just above the clouds.
The sun is close and small, and it circles around and above the flat Earth in a spiral pattern on the Tropic of Cancer in the northern summer months, and then down in the Tropic of Capricorn in the northern winter months. So when the sun is further away from the North Pole, right, the center of the flat Earth, it's winter in the north and summer in the south. Since the sun is smaller than we are told and closer, it makes much more sense that we experience seasons in the first place.
See, this is the Gleason's new standard map of the world, patent allowed November 15th, 1892. But your December solstice would look like this right here on the flat Earth map. It's way out here. Check it out. It's dark on one side of the Earth, light on the other, just so you understand that. It makes a wide circle, right like this right here. That's why it's cold right here. It's cold right there in the United States in the wintertime, isn't it? Because the sun's way out here. Sun's way out here. And then in the spring, what's the sun start doing? He starts moving in closer. That's why your days start getting longer. And it starts getting warmer. And then by the summer solstice, as you see right here, it says it spirals in to the Arctic Circle. There's your Arctic Circle right there. So this right here is your North Pole, and this little spot right here, this is Alaska. Now in the summer solstice, here's where the sun is. Well, check out what's getting 24 hours of daylight. The Arctic, the North Pole. Because see, the sun's making a small circle. That's why daytime is longer in the summertime right here in the United States. Because it doesn't take the sun very long to come back around. That's why you have short nights and long days. And then as the sun starts to go back out to its winter solstice, what's it start doing? Nights start getting longer and the days get shorter and starts getting cooler and colder, right? Until the sun goes all the way back out to the ice. And then it's cold again. Nothing 80 degrees south. No sunlight, nothing there past 80 degrees south. Because that's nothing but unknown regions of ice, just like the map told you. It's really, really simple, guys. Anyways, there's how your seasons work. The sun moves in and out as it makes its spiral. Winter, spring and summer. Summer's right here. That's why it's lit up in the middle, 24 hours a day. Okay, here we go. Goes from up, down, and back up as it makes its circle. Now, same thing right here. As you see this plate that I have sitting on the table, we know this plate is round, flat, like a disc, okay? All I'm going to do is run this little LED light around half of that plate, which would represent half of the Earth. As you see, it starts out high, it goes down low towards the outside of the plate, and as I come back around, it comes back up. That's just what you've seen here now. Look again. Goes down, around, and comes back up. Once again, same thing on the plate. Goes down, around, and comes back up. Okay, the sun and moon are like the minute and the hour hand on the face of a clock, pretending that this face of this clock is the face of the flat Earth, with the sun being the minute hand and the moon being the hour hand. The sun will eventually pass over the top of the moon, just like the minute hand will eventually pass over the top of the hour hand, causing what we know as an eclipse, as you can see here. Penny is going to represent our moon, and the flashlight is going to represent our sun. So let's move our sun source in local as it would be on a flat Earth. Now let's see how the eclipse works with the moon passing right underneath the sun. And there you have your corona. Imagine that. Now, didn't that look identical to the 2017 eclipse?
In just a few hours, the moon will pass completely in front of the sun, that event called totality, casting a shadow about 70 miles wide. The so-called path of totality spanning 14 states from Oregon to Charleston, South Carolina, where we find world news tonight.
Now I'm going to show you how the eclipse went from the west coast of Oregon to the east coast of South Carolina. Remembering that the sun rotates clockwise in a circuit around the flat Earth disk. Okay, now we're going to use the penny once again as our moon, and I'm going to show you how this eclipse took place. Now right here, you can see the west coast of the United States, and you can see the east coast, and you can see the moon over the top of the United States. Now watch what happens as the sun passes over the moon. Now remember how everybody wondered how the eclipse went from the east coast to the west coast? Like that right there, only on a flat Earth.
Mate, how are you?
Yeah, good.
I'm a fellow, Casey Josh, I'm a fellow, just PPL, pilot,
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah, nice.
I got a couple of serious questions to ask you.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, there's a big time. Curvature.
Curvature?
Yeah.
Yep.
We don't allow for curvature, do we?
For anything, not for you usually. Yeah.
No, we're round, we're a disc, aren't we? Round and flat.
Yeah.
Sorry. Hey, look, honestly, quite seriously,
Yeah.
we are, aren't we?
Yeah.
Thank you, mate. Thank you for being honest. Can I ask you one more serious question?
Yeah, go for it.
I just got one question to ask. Flat or a ball?
Flat or a ball? What's that?
Well, I never feel as breaking round. If we live on a ball, surely we'd have to fly around it. Yeah, it feels like flat or a ball.
Flat. What's a ball? I think it's flat.
Yeah, me too.
Pretty flat to me.
It certainly does, doesn't it? And you've got that flight instrument down there to keep it flat.
Gravity exists.
Gravity? There's an unproven theory.
No, it's not.
Let's rock and roll. Cheers, fellas. Thank you very much.
Are you the pilot? Oh, okay. Yes. Am I allowed to say hi? Hey, I just want to say thanks for the smooth flight.
Right.
I did have one question. Is there like a specific angle of downward tilt you have to fly at?
3 degrees.
3 degrees for the curvature of the Earth?
Oh, for the Earth?
Because, yeah.
No, we just fly over the troposphere.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you have to keep like kind of going down because...
No, we actually have to nose up. And it flies like that.
Really? Because I was reading some stuff on the flat Earth that made a lot of sense. Have you looked into it?
Which one? Sorry?
I was reading a lot of stuff on the flat Earth.
Okay, yeah. True.
It's true?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
alright, cool.
All
Hey,
right.
God bless, brother.
Alright, have a good one.
You too.
G'day guys.
How you going?
Just a fellow PPL.
Oh yes.
You know,
yeah,
but yeah. Casey, how are you, mate? Pleased to meet you guys. Guys, I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
I've been flying, and I've come to the conclusion there is no curvature. I never allow for curvature. There's no way there's curvature. We're round and flat, aren't we?
Definitely.
We are, aren't we?
Flat as a pancake,
Thank you,
mate.
sir.
Flat as a pancake.
We're and the outer ring is south.
Yeah.
And so north must be in the middle, correct?
Possibly.
That would be the only way that a magnetic compass works on a flat plane.
You might be onto something there.
Yeah, but you're not having me on. We're round and flat, aren't we?
Flat as a pancake, mate. Yeah. There you go.
Thank you, man.
No worries.
You made my day.
Only if you put gypsum under that.
But, yeah, well,
There
you know,
go.
I tell a few people, especially some close mates, even though I'm a pilot, they laugh their heads off at me. They think I'm an absolute nut job.
Nah.
Hey, thanks, guys.
No worries, mate. Cheers.
Ask any airline pilot what the shape of the Earth is. When they're done laughing at you, they'll tell you it's a sphere.
That's not, no, the ground looks to us like it's standing still.
Did you notice any curvature while we were up there?
No.
No? What did you see while we were up there?
Just the blue sky, white clouds.
Yeah, is it flat or?
Pretty flat.
Pretty flat?
Yeah.
Alright, thank you.
I was reading a lot of stuff on the flat Earth.
Okay, yeah. True.
It's true?
Yep.
Okay, alright, cool. Hey, God bless, brother.
Did you notice any curvature while we were up there?
Curvature? No.
No? There's no curvature?
It's just all flat.
Casey, how are you, mate? Pleased to meet you guys. There's no way there's curvature. We're round and flat, aren't we?
Definitely.
We are, aren't we?
Flat as a
Thank
pancake,
you.
mate. Flat as a pancake.
Most pilots know their plane is flying over a plane. A stationary plane. Always a smooth and level flight. We never feel the plane dipping its nose down. We only feel the landing. Which flight route matches reality in your mind? If you chose the left, you may need medical attention. Everything beneath you while flying is level and motionless. Just as expected, flying over a stationary plane. Sometimes it's hard to see far ahead of you, but other times...
You could probably see the Rockies from Kansas.
Wow.
But it's a clear day, but if it's smoky or hazy, obviously we can't see much.
The world is so generous in its beauty, and you do your best to take pictures of it. It's just flat and gorgeous.
Silly actor not, you took the words right out of my mouth. Earth is flat and gorgeous, but they trick you to believe something else. Not every pilot instantly connects the dots and keeps quiet. Sometimes, it can hit them 25 years later.
Hier in Australië. En dan is, want dit ding behoudt zijn stand, dus dit blijft blauw en dit blijft vrij. Het is niet zo dat we opeens omklappen de verkeerde kant op. En dit was voor mij dat ik dacht, oh man. Waarom heb ik dat nooit eerder gezien na 25 jaar in het cockpit? Dus zo geïndoctrineerd zijn we dus allemaal. Het is nog ons. Ja, het is toch, het is ook gewoon heel vervelend. Het is gewoon heel vervelend. Dat je daar al die jaren naar hebt gekeken en dat het kwartje nooit is gevallen. En ook zeg maar, toen ik eenmaal wist dat de aarde plat is, dat je naar buiten kijkt en dat je denkt, waarom heb ik nooit gezien hoe plat het eigenlijk is?
Better late than never. Most pilots may have skipped over their training manuals. In their Flight Dynamics Summary, Section 112 explains all you'll need to know about what you're flying over. Heck, the military knows the same thing. NASA admits it as well, in tons of documents available to the public. They just assumed nobody would pay attention.
This comes from the Army Research Laboratory. This one's from the CIA. There's another one from NASA. This report documents the definitions of linear aircraft model for the rigid aircraft of consistent mass flying over a flat, non-rotating Earth. This comes right from our own government. Now I have available 44 documents. Who do I give them to, sir?
You can go to the city clerk, please.
Which is this person here. So what I want is a law that's passed that we can't teach anything about the globe, and we have to teach the truth of how things are.
From the documents to the imagery, they are not flying around a curve heading to outer space. They are flying over a stationary, flat plane. If Earth was truly a ball, then there are several flights in the southern hemisphere which would have their quickest, straightest path over the Antarctic continent, such as Santiago, Chile, to Sydney, Australia. Instead of taking the shortest, quickest route in a straight line over Antarctica, however, all such flights detour all manner of directions away from Antarctica, instead claiming the temperatures are too cold for airplane travel. Considering the fact that there are plenty of flights to, from, and over Antarctica, and NASA claims to have technology keeping them in conditions far colder and far hotter than any experienced on Earth, such an excuse is clearly just an excuse, and these flights aren't made because they're impossible. If Earth was a ball and Antarctica was too cold to fly over, the only logical way to fly from Sydney to Santiago would be a straight shot over the Pacific, staying in the southern hemisphere the entire way. Refueling could be done in New Zealand or other southern hemisphere destinations along the way, if absolutely necessary. But in reality, Santiago to Sydney flights go into the northern hemisphere, making stopovers at LAX and other North American airports before continuing back down to the southern hemisphere. Such ridiculously wayward detours make no sense on the globe, but make perfect sense and form nearly straight lines when shown on a flat Earth map. On a globe, Johannesburg, South Africa to Perth, Australia should be a straight shot over the Indian Ocean, with convenient refueling possibilities on Mauritius or Madagascar. In actual practice, however, most Johannesburg to Perth flights curiously stop over either in Dubai, Hong Kong, or Malaysia, all of which make no sense on the ball model, but are completely understandable when mapped on a flat Earth. On a globe, Cape Town, South Africa to Buenos Aires, Argentina should be a straight shot over the Atlantic, following the same line of latitude across. But instead, every flight goes to connecting locations in the northern hemisphere first, stopping over anywhere from London to Turkey to Dubai. Once again, these make absolutely no sense on the ball model, but are completely understandable options when mapped on a flat Earth. On a globe, Santiago, Chile to Johannesburg, South Africa should be an easy flight, all taking place below the Tropic of Capricorn in the southern hemisphere. Yet every listed flight makes a curious refueling stop in Senegal near the Tropic of Cancer in the north hemisphere first. When mapped on a flat Earth, the reason why is clear to see, because Senegal is actually directly in a straight line path halfway between the two. On a globe, Johannesburg, South Africa to Sao Paulo, Brazil should be a quick straight shot along the 25th southern latitude, but instead, nearly every flight makes a refueling stop at the 50th degree north latitude in London first. The only reason such ridiculous stopovers work in reality is because the Earth is not a spinning ball.
On the flat Earth model, circumnavigation simply means traveling east to west. If you go east for long enough, you will end up back where you started, and the same goes for west. Ferdinand Magellan's journey, which was credited as the first circumnavigation of Earth, just circled from east to west around the flat Earth.
This map is 1892. It says scientifically and practically correct. So, if This compass is always pointing north. Where's south always pointing? To the ice wall. To the ice wall. Now, what's south of all of these countries on a globe? The Antarctica, right? So when people think, all these countries think the Antarctica's under them, but it's not, it's the ice wall. That's why it pulls to the south. The outer ring is the pull side, or the push side of the magnet. So the ice wall is south, always. Now, doesn't that make sense to you? The ice wall is south, no matter where you go on the flat Earth. And the North Pole is always going to be in the north. And you can only travel around the world going east, which is this way, or west. Now check out the compass. Where's it pointing to when we're going this way? West, right? All the way around, it's pointing west. And you can look it up yourself. We can only circumnavigate the Earth from east to west. Nobody ever in history has ever circumnavigated the Earth north to south, which means if you start here in the North Pole, you cannot circumnavigate around back to the North Pole by flying over the south, because there is no South Pole.
It's cold out here.
Yeah, it is. It's like the South Pole.
It's like the deep South Pole, if there was one. There isn't, though.
They don't want you to know that, so that's why it's called no-fly zones, and you're not allowed to circumnavigate over what they call Antarctica, which is not really Antarctica. It's an ice wall, and it ends there, and that's why they banned you from flying over it, because you'll know once you get there you can't fly over it. Okay, now pay attention as we turn the flat Earth map into a globe. Pay attention to the continents. They are still positioned north, east, west, and south. And take a look at the ice wall. What's it become when you turn it into a ball? It becomes the Antarctica. And if you'll notice, it's south of all the continents, just like the ice wall is south of all the continents on the flat Earth map. And therefore, you cannot tell the difference. The only reason that you believe what you believe is because that's what you have been taught to believe without questioning it.
When I look at the people who signed the Antarctic Treaty, and all the nations that were down there doing whatever they were doing signed a treaty, and I believe it was 1958 or somewhere thereabouts, saying, no, nobody can stake a claim to Antarctica, and if you're going to go down there, you can only go down there for scientific reasons under carefully restricted guidance, but it's not a free-for-all. Nobody can just, hey, I'm going to go check out Antarctica and do a high jump of my own. No, can't do it.
It's the only treaty that's all these countries have signed and never broken and completely agreed on. It's the only one. What treaty is there that everybody's agreed on? We're being kept away from it for a reason. They have some scientific bases there, and literally it's controlled by the military because they don't want you finding out what's beyond.
During 3 voyages lasting 3 years and 8 days, Captain Cook and crew sailed a total of 60,000 miles along the Antarctic coastline, never once finding an inlet or path through or beyond the massive glacial wall. So the other question is, well, how come ships don't go off the sea if it's flat? How come ships don't fall off the edge? Well, here's why you don't fall off the edge. It's a 200 to 300 foot high wall that is the border that Scripture says is keeping everything in. Nothing's going past that.
Because they don't want you finding out what's beyond.
Personally, I think the unconquered south face is the only one worth scaling. It's a 20,000 foot sheer wall of ice. But that's never stopped me before. Risk? Of course I'm aware of the risks. Thank you for your concern.
It would be nice if someone was allowed to truly explore Antarctica again. It sure has been a while since the last guy.
Greetings to you, my young friend.
Our very distinguished guest for this evening is Admiral Richard E. Byrd.
I must say that Admiral Byrd, our guest tonight, is not only our greatest living explorer, but he's been an inspiration to countless Americans. Admiral Byrd, is there any unexplored land left on this earth that might appeal to adventurous young Americans?
Yes, there is. Strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored. But more important than that, it has to do with the future of the nation, those to come after us, or even during your lifetime. Because it happens to be an untouched reservoir of natural resources.
Knowing that there is a creator, absolutely, that is one of the main reasons to hide this. But, you know, at the same time, it's nowhere near comparison when 1 billion people find out that there's more land.
It's about hidden land. I think there's possible there could be hidden land in here somewhere with us. And I think that the Antarctic Treaty is very, very, very sinister, and there must be something else going on.
They went really tough with their implementation of the Antarctic Treaty and everything else, and just to keep people away from the truth. They didn't want people to know about more land.
Haven't we been fighting over land forever? Isn't that what always happens? Countries fighting over land, but not on the outskirts of Antarctica. Oh, no. No fighting there. They're all in agreement. You can't go there. You can't explore any of it.
That treaty was in effect in 1959. It can't even be questioned until the year 2041. The longest lasting treaty that all of the world signed on to at the same time and is still in place. Antarctica is the container of our world oceans. What is beyond Antarctica? Why is the government hiding Antarctica from us? Why is Antarctica completely off limits except for taking a tour of a little peninsula off of South America, which is nothing?
Will be a international headline in about 5 minutes. Australian Navy ship shoots.
It's facing our way. Bad boys, shield.
Is it?
The turret is turning our way.
The turret's turning at us.
Boy, we should hide Adrian in case they think we're trying to we're just traversing. Is there a helicopter coming at us now? Are we allowed? I don't know. Just travel, just go.
Just go.
You sent out the chopper.
That's a drone.
Is it? That's unreal.
When people say, why the lie? One of the main answers is they're hiding more land.
What if we can truly become free? The whole reason for this is because of more land. Because think about it, if there's more real estate, if there's more resources, natural resources, if there's more food for our starving children, if there's more space, more room for us to get away from the trafficking, if there's places where we can go and other civilizations we can be a part of, where they don't charge you for water, they don't charge you for free energy, they don't charge you for property taxes. What if there is more land?
Nobody can go explore Antarctica, period. Because if humanity found out there's more land, then the heliocentric theory is gone. They can't start adding more continents on the bottom of a ball. It's just, they wanted it silenced right away.
There is evidence out there through old maps, namely the 1,000-year-old Japanese Kawabashi map, which shows continents and lands outwardly of what they call the ice shelf or the ice wall.
So why are they teaching the globe model? Well, you see, the globe is a container, and it's a container of all the known land. the Jesuits and the Freemasons. They needed a new model because they wanted a new world order.
Because right now on a ball or in a snow globe, there's only 7 continents. That's all there is. So everything is it's very limited. We have a limited supply.
Resources are very scarce because the Earth is a globe, right? It's cut off, everything's cut off. If you open it up and there is more land, then there's plenty of resources. More land means more resources. Well, that's huge if they're hiding something like that. There's a scene in The Truman Show where Truman is like, I want to be an explorer when I get older.
I like to be an explorer, like the Great Magellan.
Oh, well, you're too late. There's really nothing left to explore.
Imagine if there's like all these beautiful places to explore still, and finding out that there's all this land, it just opens up the door for discovery again.
Timeline goes as follows. So in 1955, Operation Deep Freeze starts. And when Admiral Richard Byrd gets back, he comes on live television and tells us he found more land, the size of North America. They quickly start NASA. And President Eisenhower calls over the Nazi traitors in Operation Paperclip to start the upper space mind control program. Don't look out there, look up here. Look everybody, we're going to the moon. Then, in 1959, 12 nations started the Antarctic Treaty, followed by 42 more nations where they have decided you or I cannot travel or explore any part of Antarctica south or past the 60th parallel without military clearance, without the aid of a guided tour. Do you really think that this is just a coincidence?
Imagine they find more land. Imagine there is more land out there, more to explore, more to reside, more resources. You think they tell you and I about it?
When confronted with the demonstrable evidence for our level Earth plane, one of the most common and frequently asked questions is, why would anyone lie about the shape of the Earth? Why would there be a worldwide conspiracy to hide the true dimensions of our home? What would be the point of hiding our level Earth to begin with? Many who ask this question haven't actually researched the subject and understand that those who aren't directly involved in the lie cannot fully comprehend the motives of those who are. Therefore, the often repeated phrase, "Why would they lie?" is more a cynical defense mechanism than a genuine question. So we cannot definitively answer the question of motive, but we can attempt to deduce and guess what it may be. Government space agencies are freely receiving trillions in currency over the decades to produce little more than rockets that end up in the ocean and CGI cartoons on television. Maintaining the illusion is comparatively cheap, so rather than being some unrealistically expensive enterprise, it is actually an incredibly lucrative and profitable scam. Besides being a productive moneymaker, the notion of outer space, along with the belief in a globe Earth and the Big Bang Theory, has fostered a nihilistic materialistic worldview that rejects the idea of intelligent design and replaces it with the concept of random, chaotic coincidence. Instead of intentional design by a purposeful creator for humans and the Earth, we are taught that everything came into existence by accident and for no reason. Through indoctrination into this anti-spiritual religion, believers lose connection with anything beyond the material world and become selfish, compliant consumers. This then sets the stage for further manipulations, as people deceived and disconnected from their true foundations can be led anywhere. Two places we are clearly not being led by this globe deception, however, are Antarctica and the North Pole. These two locations hold inherent significance in the level Earth model of the cosmos, as Antarctica is the elevated outer rim that encompasses and extends around all the other continents, while the North Pole is the center point of the world, where all compasses point and directly below Polaris, the only stationary star in the sky. Interestingly, ancient world maps from before the globe deception took hold depict additional lands in both regions. Since then, however, these locations have completely disappeared from all modern maps. By turning Earth into a ball, these potential extra lands, resources, and civilizations have been conceptually erased from the minds of the masses, as there is literally nowhere left for them to exist. In summation, the globe lie is the biggest and most fundamental deception imaginable. It uproots humanity from the foundational truth of our level Earth and sends them spinning out of control in a vast, unintelligent universe. Scientism has become a new world religion, and the masses now follow blindly towards whatever future is manufactured for them.
What difference does it make? What difference does it make? Yeah, that's their favorite line. Got a lot of people, what difference does it make? You can't figure out what difference it makes? If you can't figure out what difference it makes that the people running your world are lying to you over and over your whole life, if you can't figure out that someone lying to you is trying to control you, suppressing of information, of knowledge, is control. Deception of information and knowledge is a form of control. So what difference does it make? It makes a big difference, because once they start omitting information or lying about information about where you live, they're doing it to control you, period. Why am I having to explain this to critical thinkers in the truth movement? The way you control billions of people is to keep them divided and fighting each other. Flat Earth is not a psyop. Flat Earth destroys the psyop. Every psyop that's been used to control us for as long as they've known about it. So this system has been in power and control for hundreds of years, ever since they convinced the rest of the world that they didn't know where they live. It created this fantastical scenario to make people feel insignificant and to follow those that appear to know better. Why is the flat Earth so important? Because it shows the deception. And if everybody would just come together and demand answers, they would be in checkmate. They would not know what to do.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I say, continue to believe pathological liars and you're an idiot.
By the way, how much money is being spent on space? You should emblazon this in your head. Here it goes. This is the pie chart. $330 billion a year is spent on space. Spent on space. Spent on space. Spent on space.
The future is not written. So absolutely, when you have negative attitudes and negative, ideas about what the future is going to have, not to sound like a new age law of attraction type person, but the future crystallizes starting from the internal to the external. So if your starting point is that there's no way we can win this, we're screwed, and all that. If that's your internal monologue, then what do you think your external actions are going to reflect? How effective do you think you're going to be in instituting some sort of positive change or positive future if that's where you're at? Yep. So I'm not discounting cynicism or negativity or people who are in a space where they see all that, because I see it as well. Of course. But you got to go beyond that, because you got to realize that the future is not set in stone. We are the ones we've been waiting for. When everyone asks, will this ever get out there? Is it going to always have the same answer? It's completely up to us, man. Whoever's talking to me, it's up to me. It's up to you. If we do our part in getting this out there, then of course we're going to succeed. And of course, if we don't, then we're not. So obviously, it's all up to us. There is no mystery to it. It's not something you got to sit and ponder. Is it going to happen one day? Up to you. If you're going to sit there thinking about it, no. If you get out and do something about it, absolutely. The truth is always there regardless, just waiting for people to realize it. It's the lies that require constant propaganda to get people to believe nonsense continuously. And even if there were no activists, I think of it this way, the truth's still there. The lies require the constant upkeep. The truth remains regardless. So, of course, the truth always wins in the end. There's no other way.
I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin.